What's up, folks? Welcome back to another episode of today's Misguided Mentors. Good to be back. I actually was not able to do any live streaming or any posting in the last couple days because I was in Orlando at PodFest. And so I was kind of interacting and hanging out and meeting a bunch of other fellow podcasters at that event and had a really good time and met a handful of solid, good people there. There obviously was some bad energy floating around as well. But for the most part, I had a really good time. And I did learn some things. I got a lot of resources. And I just, essentially met a lot of really good people. So had a good time. It's good to be back. Good to talk about this. So I'm going to talk about a couple things in this video. And I just got to say, well, first of all, in this video, I'm going to go over what Gary Brecka was saying to, not all of it, obviously, but I'm going to touch base on some of the things that Gary Brecka was talking to Aaron Smith-Levin on Aaron's channel, Growing Up in Scientology. So if you have not seen that interview, first of all, I'll just recommend check it out. It's very intriguing, and it's very honest. It's very transparent in what Gary was saying. The other thing I'm going to do is actually dovetail into showing you guys my actual declaration that I submitted to the Grant Cardone versus John Legere case. And so I'll show it to you, and I'm going to break it down verbatim and talk to you guys a little bit about, you're going to see basically what I wrote down, and then I'll elaborate on that a little bit more. But I want to bring this up. This channel, today's Misguided Mentors, is not going to be always focused on dovetailing and riding the coattails of other people's interviews. Eventually, I'm going to be doing my own interviews, and I'm not going to always just be piggybacking off of some of these videos like I see a lot of people doing. It just seems to be, the timing of it is just very relevant, and it's relevant to my experience and what's going on. So it just makes sense to break down some of these things. And so I'm going to do it. But I just wanted to put that out there. I don't want people thinking that, not that I care what people think, but so they know what to expect from the channel. It's not about covering existing podcasts or existing stories that are going on right now. It's not about doing things that are trendy. Like this channel is about helping people. Three things. I'm going to re-emphasize the three things I'm focused on with today's Misguided Mentors. First thing is I'm helping people identify misguided mentors, self-serving entrepreneurs, and cults. The other thing I'm doing is encouraging ethical leadership. And the last thing I'm doing is enhancing entrepreneurial awareness. So I'm trying to help entrepreneurs that are either in the self-development space or just getting involved with it so that they can be aware of what to expect in some of these predatory atmospheres and how to navigate it as a consumer and a seller. So that's what the channel is going to be about. And in doing that, it's also going to involve me educating people, not just sharing my experience, but also giving my opinion on what I think some problems are and what you can do to navigate this space, because it can be very tricky. And if you're not protected, if you're not aware of certain things, you're going to have some things happen to you that you're not going to enjoy, including some of the experiences that I've had and Gary Brecka has had and other people that are talking about it. So let me jump into this. I just wanted to point that out so people got a clear understanding of what my intention is. What kind of person I am, how I'm trying to help, all that good stuff. I'm really here to help other people. It's not about serving myself or ego or followers or views. It's not about that. It's about reaching the right people at the right time so that they don't, they know what to expect and they're not getting taken advantage of. They're not being preyed on. Their vulnerability is not being exploited. All that stuff. So I really hate to see that happen to people, and I'm going to do my best to help contribute to stopping that. So let's jump into this. I'm just going to break down. There's a couple time-stamped areas on this video that I want to make sure I cover. And so I'm just going to jump right in. And again, for the people that are on Instagram, make sure you follow and subscribe on YouTube, today's Misguided Mentors, because I'm live streaming on it right now, and I'm not going to see. Yeah, so I just said it again, the heart of a hummingbird, which is a great, I don't know why I like that title, but really cool. To answer your question, and anybody watching, it's called 2 Days Misguided Mentors. You can either put that in the search bar and follow it and subscribe, or you can, to make it very easy, go to my story, and there's a click on there that I put that says subscribe. It's on my story right now. Very easily, you can jump on there, click that, and I'll take you right to it. So I'll see your live comments if you guys want to engage with anything I'm saying, and I really appreciate your support as well. So, all right, let me jump into this. Let's see. All right, so I skipped past a lot of this video. Looks like I'm going right into like 5 minutes into this. And the reason for that is because I've already covered some of this. Well, not even that. Some of the stuff Gary's talking about in this video, he already covered in the interview with JT Fox. So I'm going to get into some stuff that I want to talk about, go over some clips, and take it from there. All right, so just a heads up, let me move my timestamp notes. That way, because I realize you guys can't hear this unless I pivot my mic to this. So let me see if I can do this. All right.
What he told us, we were on his the back balcony there, a beautiful balcony out by the ocean. Grant and I were having a cigar. Sage was sitting on the couch next to Grant. It's around 7 o'clock on October 15th, and he very casually told us that Cardone Capital had been under investigation by a federal agency for the better part of 2 years, and that undercover federal agents were posing as employees inside of Cardone Capital. And Sage and my heart sank because we're also investors in Cardone Capital. When we sold our business, when we sold Streamline to 10X Health Ventures and Cardone Ventures, the money that we received from the sale, portion of the money was paid over a 3-year period, but the cash that we received from the sale, we immediately just put into Cardone Capital, into the real estate fund. And that was never our concern. I never saw any indication. Of course, I wasn't involved in the organization, but again, the people that were on board that ship were some very close friends of mine, very good people. And when Grant told us that that organization was under a federal investigation, that they had employees that were posing as employees of Cardone Capital in furtherance of this investigation, which I assume was a criminal investigation, Sage got nauseous. When we got back in the car leaving Grant's Malibu home, it was a very heavy ride. And he also let us know that Brandon knew about this, and Brandon was our partner. Brandon Dawson was one of our co-founders in 10X Health. He was also our partner. He was also invested in Cardone Capital, and Sage was just distraught. She said, why wouldn't our partners tell us that this was going on? We're inside the organization. We're their partners. We're their co-founders. We don't need to go public with this information, but we're investors in your fund. We're partners in 10X Health. We took a minority stake. We sold our baby to you guys. We're giving our life to this. If there's something going on that we should know about, why wouldn't they tell us? And I was shocked that this had been going on during the term that we were both investors and partners, and no one thought that we should be told about it.
Okay, let me get back to this and stop it right there. This is actually, oh, you know what? I didn't actually share the live video. That's okay. You at least heard it. Let me break that part down. Sorry, by the way, you guys didn't actually see that. So when I actually do that again, I'm gonna flip it over here. But let me break down what he's talking about. So first of all, he's saying that, like, why weren't we told about these concerning things, at least things that were a concern to them? And I can tell you why. Because if you start telling people that are partners with you or investors with you that you're being investigated by federal agents, that's a concern. I mean, you can hide behind the statement that people like Grant Cardone and everybody in that organization hides behind, like haters are gonna hate. When you get successful, people are gonna try to suppress you. La 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 la, all that shit, right? But let's just face it, that is a concern if you got federal agents investigating your organization. So that's why they didn't tell you, Gary. You would have thought twice about being a partner. Or maybe you wouldn't have. Maybe you would have ignored that. That happens all the time as well. Maybe you would have ignored that red flag and your intuition, your conscience to do business with him. I have a suspicion you wouldn't have because, I mean, you seem like you're really in tune with yourself. So I hope that wouldn't be the case. But that's why they didn't tell you, man. And I'm really sorry that they did not be transparent about that up front. But that's exactly the reason why. So he made a couple of comments there I want to go over. He was talking about he puts his money into capital. They do this with them. They are encouraging those people that money is constantly being flowed back to 10X organization, back into Grant Cardone's pockets. It's like, here, I'm going to help you scale your business, or I'm going to help you do X, Y, Z, or you should invest it in, I don't know, the next program, which is another thing we'll talk about here in a second, which is a very, very real thing that's going on in this space as well. So, he said it wasn't a concern because he didn't know about it. Or he said Cardone Capital was never a concern. I imagine now it's probably a concern. I would hope so. Yeah, so those are the things I wanted to touch base on. Let's get to the next timestamp. This is crazy, actually. When I heard him say that Grant told them they were being investigated by federal agents who are posing as employees, like, that's some serious shit. Like, you can't even disregard that at all. Whether or not, like I said, you're an employee, you're a partner, or you're just someone consuming his content, there's a red flag there. There's something that should at least be taken, and there should be something that's looked at a little bit closer. There we go. All right, so let me get to this next one. This time I'm going to make sure I'm sharing the screen here, because this is pretty interesting stuff here.
So initially, Cardone Capital was not our concern, and my issues are not with Cardone Capital. Ours are with Brandon Dawson, Natalie Dawson, and Cardone Ventures. And a year and a half before that meeting, Sage and I told Grant to his face that Natalie Dawson and Brandon Dawson and Cardone Ventures would be the downfall of the organization.
The downfall of the organization you were a part of, or the downfall of
the downfall of the organization that we're a part of. And it would really taint Grant's business because of just the predatory way that we were being treated. And we were beginning to hear rumblings of other business owners being treated the same way, other entrepreneurs being treated the same way. Staff members were resigning. Staff members were quietly confiding in us. And now that we've filed this lawsuit and publicly driven a stake in the ground, I can't even tell you what the kinds of calls that are coming into this hotline are heart-wrenching. I mean, they're really heartbreaking. And they are very coincidental with the pattern that we saw, that my wife and I experienced inside of Cardone Ventures.
All right, so a lot of things are coming up for me in that statement that Gary just made. So he mentioned right there at the end, he said a lot, since he's talked about this, since he has been very, very transparent about his experience and essentially calling them out, he's had a lot of heart-wrenching stories. This is exactly what happened to me. As a matter of fact, I just got a message today, and I got a couple yesterday. But when I voluntarily last year, and was it last year? I don't know. It's starting to blend. No, it wasn't last year. I'm sorry. The previous year in October or late September. I think it was late September. When I voluntarily left Grant Cardone's organization, I said, hey, guys, I'm not in alignment with this shit anymore. See you later. I started, not only, did I do that, but I started actually being very vocal, just like Gary. I love what Gary's doing because he's doing the exact same thing I did. I was pretty much going on like a press release, talking to anybody I could, sharing my experience, not holding back. And I'm still doing that. I've been doing that for over a year now consistently. And so I'm really happy that Gary's doing it as well, because it's super important. It's usually better to tell that when it is fresh. Obviously there's a lot of emotions going on, but when you get, and for me, I had a lot of emotions going on, but now I've kind of tapered down. Obviously I'm very calm and collected, very professional about it. Yes, I kind of, don't hold back on the things I say, but in my opinion, that's some of the people's problems these days. Like I seen a video that this lady did talking about this, and it seemed like she was just using the video for clickbait, and all she did was share some information about Gary Brecka and talking about this. She didn't really give her opinion about much. She didn't really, say I agree with this person or agree with that person. She like treaded this water of neutralism, and kind of like Gary does as well. But, I tend to really be outspoken and say, I think this person's this. It's my opinion. This guy's a fucking fraud or a scam. I really don't have no problem with that. And It's not out of hate. It's just my opinion based on my experiences I've had. And so, I also don't judge people. It's just an opinion of mine based on my experience. And so it opens the door for people to elaborate on that stuff. But instead, they start blocking you and they start saying, haters are going to hate, or you're just disgruntled, and all these excuses come out. But it's just a way to throw red herrings out there and deflect the things that are being talked about. So I really like the fact that Gary's doing what he's doing, because he's having the same experience that I had when I started talking about this stuff. I had some crazy sad stories. People would reach out to me, not as much as they do now. I mean, ironically, this week and last week I've gotten several, but within the first couple months of me talking about it, I would get at least 2 or 3 a week, it seemed like. And they were sad. Like, I had people talking about how, Grant or someone in the organization convinced them to pull a HELOC out on their home and invest that money in Cardone Capital. And it never gave them the returns that they were expecting. I had some stories of, old lady. This guy was telling me his mom got deceived and she was like in her 60s, and like just terrible stories. Organizations being collapsed because they took on Cardone University program and didn't work out. So these are the type of stories I got. And some of them are really, really sad, really, really sad. And so I got a lot of empathy for people who are talking about this. It's very, very sad. I see Christine's on Instagram. She had a sad story as well. There's a lot of damage being done. And so what Gary's talking about is a very real thing. And I'm really happy not only that he's doing it, but the fact that he's got a big following and he's got some credibility, because obviously he was also a partner, or a perceived partner, right? I'll talk about that later, but that whole partner, that facade of being a partner with 10X is all bullshit. And you're not a partner. You're usually just it's this false third party validation that they claim gives you credibility so that people are going to do business with you or something like that. But in fact, it does not. It does the opposite of that. At least it did for me. So let me jump on into this, because there is one thing I do want to make sure I talk about as I get going through this. Did he talk about that? Yes. He said that Gary told Grant Cardone. Gary said that he told Grant Cardone that branded would be the downfall of 10X Health. So Gary's seen it coming. He did feel that. It sounds like Sage, his wife, definitely felt the red flags, definitely seen that coming. She didn't know what was going to happen, but you could tell that she definitely seen some bad and felt some bad vibes. Let's put it that way. So very, very unfortunate. And he also mentioned it's a predatory atmosphere, a predatory way of doing business. 100%. Again, there's something here he talks about later on that I want to touch base on. He talks about the atmosphere in these type of events and organizations, which I talk about very frequently, and so we'll talk about that. Let's talk about this. Let's zoom on to this next one though, because this is all super important. It's all stuff I talk about, so I'm really happy Gary's really breaking this down the same way I do as well. All right, here we go.
In your previous interview, when you mentioned something about every time you would contact either Brandon or Grant about some problem you needed to resolve or something that was going wrong in business or something you wanted to discuss, it was the response was something like, and correct me if I'm misquoting you, but do the next training component, do the next Cardone University course, come to the next Growth Con, and I couldn't help but be reminded of the multi-level marketing space, where every time someone in the downline goes to someone in their upline with looking to resolve a problem, it's basically pay more money, do the next thing. It's always the next thing that's going to solve your problem. It's always the next thing. That's not how the business world works.
These events are very intoxicating. Our first big event with Grant Cardone was an intoxicating event. It was at Marlin Stadium. I think the capacity of that stadium is around 37,000. They claim to have 34,000 people there, but the whole swaths of that stadium were empty. The stage was in front of the rear portion of the stadium, which was completely empty. You see Grant Cardone parachute in from, several thousand feet, and parachute into the stadium. You later find out that it actually wasn't Grant Cardone. It was a stunt double.
No way.
He pretended to hurt his ankle. He actually pretended to injure his ankle and delayed the start of the event. There's celebrities on the stage, there's entertainers, there's music. It's a very intoxicating event. You're around people that want to be successful, that are there, that are full of hopes and full of dreams. And you're not really paying attention to the people running around with the clipboard. You don't know that behind the scenes that they're measuring sales by the hour. They're tracking sales by the hour so that the pitches can shift from the stage. They're trying not to let people leave before they get their credit card, because they know that the chances of them leaving an event and then paying for products and services after they leave is the trails off very quickly. And you just get caught up in this intoxicating environment because it appears like these celebrities have had an experience with the organization when really they're just paid to sit on the stage and tell their story. Reminds me of Kamala Harris paying a bunch of celebrities to endorse it, and then you find out behind the scenes that they were paid $2 million or $500,000 or $1 million just to get up and give a few minute speech. But these events are really intoxicating, and you're around some people that are successful, and there are some success stories in the organization, but they don't talk about the failure rate. They never publicize the failure rate. You don't hear from the entrepreneurs whose businesses were charged these fees like we were. You don't hear about the legal threats like we would get on a regular basis. You don't hear about the oppressive continuation of, you need to go to this boot camp, this 360, this private event, this couples retreat. You have to put Cardone University into all your organization. The reason why you're not succeeding is you don't have the strategic business unit running your operation, and it's just fees after fees after fees, and people are just. This is why the machine is so hungry. It needs a voluminous amount of new blood in the top of the funnel because people are shooting out the bottom of this tube. I promise you, discovery and depositions cannot come soon enough. Because
Well. I actually have a deposition I'm happy to share with you guys, but let me first go over what Gary was talking about. Wow, he actually said a lot there. I forgot to stop the video at a certain time. But this whole atmosphere of selling course after course after course after course. The next thing is going to solve your problem. You just need this next thing. Everything's your questions are always going to be answered in this next course. And then when you have more questions in that course, oh yeah, those questions are going to be answered in this next course. It's this constant dangling the carrot in front of you in perpetuity, forever. It's a very real thing. So like if people knew, if I told you, if you've never been to a 10X event and I told you, hey, just so you know, when you go here, you're going to be heavily sold and upsold, and they're going to constantly pressure you, might even pitch you while you're eating your food, lunch. They might even pitch you in the bathroom. It's so aggressive there. Their goal is to make sure you buy that next thing. That's the whole reason you're going to this event. If I told somebody that, how many people do you think are going to show up to that? Probably not as much, just because nobody likes that. And it's definitely a fucked up feeling while you're going through it. And so he's talking about this being a intoxicating feeling. So let me talk about that. I've talked about these, again, you've probably heard me explain a lot of these things already. So I'm really happy that Gary's telling it from his perspective as well, because one, again, he's got good credibility and he's in the eyes of people perceived successful, right? I would say he's had a lot of big successes, but he's not wrong. This atmosphere is obviously very predatory, but two, this raw energy of everybody feeding off each other, of like, everybody fitting in with the elites, this elite group that you're above everybody else. You're not like average people. You've invested yourself, your network, your net worth is higher. You're more valuable because you're hanging out with a bunch of other high performance people. It's a facade. And this energy is really, like Gary said, the word he used was intoxicating. It is very, very attractive. And a lot of people don't realize that they're getting caught up in that energy, and it feels really good. For most people, I don't care who you are, it feels really good being in that environment. And if you really don't know yourself that well, or if you just have a habit of ignoring red flags, or you have a hard time saying no, A lot of people have this problem. A lot of people have a hard time telling people no. If you have any of those three things going on, you're going to struggle coming out of those events without buying something. It's a really hard thing to do because of the amount of pressure and the amount of brainwashing that's going on there. Again, this is my opinion. I don't care. These people could try to sue me. I've been saying this for a long time. This is what I've been through. This is what I've noticed, and it's what I've experienced. And obviously, I'm not the only one, it looks like. So very terrible, very terrible. Let me talk about some other stuff. You talked about the paid speaker thing, right? It's so funny that everybody likes to get in the room where Tom Brady's there, Donald Trump's there, Mike Tyson's there. Like, I always wondered about that. It's like, is it just to serve the ego to say, yeah, oh yeah, I was in the same room with this person or I heard him speak? It's, again, very attractive. It's meant to feel very attractive, but, it's not that big of a deal to just sit in the same room to hear all these people talk. Yeah, I really didn't feel like I was changed. You could hear the same speech on a YouTube clip of them or something like that. And all these people are doing. So the only reason, in my opinion, Grant's able to pay someone $1 million to come speak or $250,000 to come speak for 10 minutes is because he's charging $20,000 front row seats. So you can pay for that kind of, you can pay for those speakers very easily when you're charging that amount. And by the way, a lot of people don't know this, but I've seen Grant straight up shame people in these rooms, the people in the back, the ones that pay like $1,000 to come to this event. I've seen him do it so many times. But you've heard me talk about shaming, right? The whole, people are either going to shame your bank account or they're going to shame your physique to try to break you down. And that's one of the things that Grant did, was shame your bank account and your finances and say basically you're not serious about this, or you're not serious about growing or changing or being successful unless you invest in yourself. And if you're only spending $1,000 and you never make it to the front row spending $20,000 a seat, you're just not that serious, and you're not going to ever invest yourself, and you're never going to get with the big boys and all that. I've heard him say stuff like this literally in a room full of people, and it gets in people's heads a lot. Now, imagine 3 days of this, 3 days of someone just grinding you, drilling you, using a good message and using it for bad and twisting it for their agenda, for their narrative. This is what happens. And again, it can feel very enticing, very attractive is the way to put it. It's very attractive to feel like, oh, okay, if I spend $20,000 and sit up front, I'm going to feel like the big boys. I'm going to feel like I'm part of the elite, the even more elite group. Nothing changes in the room. I've promised you, I've sat at those. I've bought diamond tickets, I've bought premier tickets, and I've bought just the general pass tickets. There's no difference in where you're sitting in the room. The difference in the people, but it's just people that have spent the same amount as you. There really is no difference. It's all bullshit that's being sold to you. So anyways, he said you don't hear about any of the legal stuff. You're not going to, and that's interesting, right? The reason you don't hear about it is because nobody talks about it. And again, I love that Gary brought that up, because that's what I've been saying for so long. This continues because people want to forget about it. They want to brush it under the rug. They want to move on. It's embarrassing to talk about for some people. All this stuff I went through, you know what I mean? Like, it's not fun to talk about, being ripped off or scammed or feeling like, I was sold a dream that was never delivered, or that I was brainwashed. That's not a very fun thing to talk about, and it's not very pleasant to admit. But, I've come to realize that, this can happen to the best of people, so I have no shame in talking about that. It's unfortunate that I went through that. Gary went through some of it, and a lot of people I've talked to have went through it, but I would suggest to those people who are struggling with that, don't beat yourself up so much. As long as you learn from that, and you know yourself a lot better because of it, I would call that a win. But this is why this doesn't get talked about. Why it continues is because they put the fear in people, and people don't talk about it. So I encourage people to, I realize it's not for everybody, but if you can somehow talk about it, even anonymously, do it that way. You know what I mean? I understand it's not for everybody to expose themselves, and especially if you're terrified of being attacked or your family being them coming after your family or your finances or whatever the case. I don't know how they did it to John Legere, but they were able to do that. Scientology was able to put the fear in him, in my opinion. So yeah, Christine, the level of importance that they think they are, in reference to the seat buying. You said you've experienced something similar and you wanted to run. I'm glad you wanted to run. Hopefully you did run. So yeah. And what the other thing that Gary said that, really is interesting. He talks about this funnel. He said he talks about the funnel being a hungry beast. It is exactly that, because I've always wondered, like, how can people, scam and then nobody talk about it, and like, how are they able to be successfully scamming so many people at such a big volume? And it's because of the volume they're able to do that. You're just the way he explained it is very, very, very good. Actually, it's a very accurate description of the way that business, in my opinion, is being structured. It's just constant people. Usually they're the most vulnerable, coming in the top, and they have a bad experience. Nothing ever happens. They come out the bottom. Some stay in that funnel longer than others. Some of them go right through. Most people are not repeat. Once you've gone through the funnel, I guarantee most of them are never coming back after they've had that bad experience. So it is a hungry beast, and I like the way that Gary framed it and the way he put it. So yeah, that's all I'm going to touch base on this video. But now, since Gary talked about the depositions and the declarations could not come quicker, I am going to show you guys. And again, for those of you who are watching on Instagram, you're not going to be able to see this unless you go to my YouTube channel, Today's Misguided Mentors. Make sure you subscribe to that so you can actually see what I'm about to show. And I can see your comments as well, because I'm not going to be able to engage with two different cameras. I just leave this going right now, so that I can dual live stream, to get a little more traffic and get you guys funneled over there. And then also, I'm just trying to switch gears on this. So go ahead and jump over there if you're not already. It's very easy. Go to my story. There's a link there. Click it. Make sure you subscribe to my channel, because I'm about to show you guys my declaration that I submitted to the John Legere case. By the way, I have not had a chance to really go over the Grant Cardone versus John Legere case enough. I think I touched base on it a little bit, but it's really sad to see, in my opinion, that John buckled under pressure, especially after how convicted he was coming at Grant. It really shocked me to see him backpedal like that. And it's a testament to the power of Scientology, how far-reaching the power of Scientology is. They really can make the most, influential, the most confident, the most convicted people cave in. And maybe I'm being too harsh on John, but when I hear the Clubhouse video of him expressing his thoughts and what he really felt, I mean, it's powerful. It's conviction. You can feel his energy. You can feel his passion. And then now I see a public apology by him. And then now, to take it even a step further, I hear that part of the settlement agreement is not only John Legere having to do a public apology, but he also had to invest in Cardone Capital. Now, I don't mean to be too harsh on the guy. He seems like a stand-up individual, but I'm sorry. That's a fucking sellout move. It really is. Maybe he made the best decision on that because they threatened his family or I don't know what they said to him or how they were able to actually do that, but they were able to squeeze and constrict so much pressure on that man that he had to do those two things, and he did it. That's crazy after hearing that type of, those type of comments and his conviction and what he thought about Grant Cardone. I mean, if you haven't heard it, go back and watch it. I did some clips on a couple videos back going over that clip when I first heard the news about it. And so if you're interested in hearing some of the stuff that John was saying to Grant in Clubhouse that initiated that lawsuit, check it out. It's crazy to hear that he went from that to settling out of court and then doing the things he did. So let me show you, because this declaration that I wrote is now that the lawsuit settled, it's not going to be shown in that case, obviously. However, I wrote and I said a lot of things, and I got really vulnerable and I got really transparent, and I talked a lot about the things, like I said earlier, that I don't like talking about and are kind of would be very uncomfortable for most people to talk about. But it's reality. It's what I experienced. It's what I went through, and I have no problem sharing it because it's about helping people, and it's not about me at all. So let me share my screen and break this down. And by the way, I'm going to end up using this declaration for a lot of different applications. So check this out. And then Christine, yes, can't wait to see it. I'm going to show you right now. That's the craziest shit ever, 100%. Kat, good to see you on here. Yeah, I couldn't believe that either. When I heard he had to invest in Cardone Capital, my mind was blown. I was like, wow, it just got worse. I was like, first the public apology, now you got to invest. It's crazy. And it's under investigation. Exactly. After I just went into that, it's under investigation. And here John Legere was pressured to invest in it. So let me go over my declaration. All right, check this out, guys. All right, so here we go. Grant Cardone versus John Legere, case number 20240000534CA01. This is my Declaration of Benjamin John. I'm going to go verbatim, word for word. I won't be able to see your comments for a brief moment while I'm going over this, so I'll just break this down in segments here and do the best I can. I, Benjamin John, hereby declare I am the owner of Precision Patio Covers, LLC, and Massive Impact Coaching. I am a public speaker and author who focuses on highlighting deceitful mentors, ethical leadership, and self-awareness in the self-development industry. I have personal knowledge of the matters set forth herein and believe them to be true and correct. I am a former client and 10X business coach in Mr. Cardone's companies and have spent over $200,000 for courses, seminars, and business advice that provided no value to me. This includes all expenses to attend Mr. Cardone's events. In my experience, Mr. Cardone's business is based on manipulation, deception, harassment, bullying, shaming, and high-pressure sales tactics to coax entrepreneurs into desperate financial straits to invest their last dollars with Mr. Cardone under the premise that he will provide the tools to turn their businesses around when, in fact, the advice and courses that he sells are worthless. All right, so let me talk about that really quick. So, that is something that actually I want to re-emphasize to people that when I got introduced to Grant Cardone, it was during the pandemic. And in case you guys didn't know this, during the pandemic, the coaching and the mentorship space blew up. Why do you think that is? Well, is because most business owners were in a state of fear, in a state of emergency, uncertainty, doubt. There was a lot of things floating around. A lot of businesses took a huge revenue hit and didn't know what to do. They were scrambling. I was doing fairly well for myself. I actually didn't stop working. I was a construction company, and I made the decision to not, but I still was having a hard time getting business because people didn't want anybody over at their house, in their home, doing an in-home sales presentation. So I did take a hit. I thankfully had a couple big sunroom jobs that kept me busy during that time. But for the most part, I still had fear and uncertainty creeping in within me. Everybody did. And that's kind of how Grant was able to get into my head. All the stuff that he was making promises, how to expand in a contracting economy, things like that. And that's kind of how I got sucked into it. And again, this is not, when someone reads this, you can either think like, oh, he sounds like a victim. Oh, he's not taking any accountability. On the contrary, I do take accountability for what I've done, but I still am not just going to take accountability without calling out the entire situation and what I think the other party's involvement was and the part they played in that. Yes, I take accountability. Yes, I spent the money and I did that. But brainwashing and manipulation is a very real thing, and you're crazy if you don't think that's going on. I mean, it happens in Scientology, any type of religion, cults. It goes on it happens in like spousal relationships, family relationships. Brainwashing is a real thing, and so it's unfortunate because you can't really prove brainwashing or manipulation. You can't really prove that type of stuff, which makes it hard to challenge these cases, which also makes it very hard for people to step up and talk about this, because it's got to be something you can prove. It makes it very hard to prove something, prove that someone was brainwashing you. And again, just because I'm talking about this doesn't mean I'm a victim. I'm far from a victim. I mean, yes, this happened to me, but I'm not living in a victim mentality. However, I'm sharing what happened to me, and I'm sharing my thoughts and my opinion. You can call me a victim. You can call me this. I don't care. I've been called all that stuff. I don't give a shit what you think about me. I'm here to help people. So, and that, whatever it takes. All right. So let me get back into this real quick. All right. So through my years of experience with Mr. Cardone, I learned that he and his team make false promises and will say anything to induce customers into paying for advice and courses. Not once did Mr. Cardone keep his promises to help me in my business. Instead, Mr. Cardone preyed on me because my business was in a vulnerable position, taking me for essentially all that I had, including business funding that he taught me how to attain in Cardone University. I fell for his scams and false promises. I know many other business owners have too. Through Mr. Cardone's actions and inactions, he has proven to me that he does not have business solutions, keep his promises, or care about his clients. During the global pandemic in 2021, I was introduced to the 10X Rule, a book published by Mr. Cardone. After listening to an audio version of the book and also hearing him say that he's a billionaire, I decided to seek advice from Mr. Cardone about how to grow my business and navigate the economic turbulence created by the pandemic. Mr. Cardone told me that he could solve the problems my business was facing and would help me scale my business. He frequently told me that if I followed his advice and paid for his courses, I could emulate his success. For example, Mr. Cardone told me to commit financial resources to him first and figure the rest out later. Proximity is power. Those who pay attention, and you are operating at low levels. Mr. Cardone constantly showed off his personal jet, helicopters, and expensive watches, bragging that I could achieve his level of wealth if I just paid for his training courses. And there's a reason why I broke it down and explained it like that, by the way. Based on Mr. Cardone's promises and marketing, I spent over $200,000 with his courses and his organization in approximately 3 years. One of the things that I bought based on Mr. Cardone's promises was a program he offered known as Cardone University. I thought it was an actual university where I could learn new skills and grow my business. Instead, Cardone University was a system that contained pre-recorded videos of Grant Cardone discussing generic and outdated sales strategies and provided no skills or advice I could use to grow my business. Mr. Cardone's associates deceived me into paying for services I didn't need by stating I would not achieve the success promised by Mr. Cardone without them. For instance, I had only 2 employees when I enrolled at Cardone University. Yet Mr. Cardone's associates pressured me into buying 10 Cardone University accounts by telling me that I would never get more employees in the future if I didn't show that I believe it could happen by buying the 10 accounts now. Since I believe Mr. Cardone's promises that I would achieve success if I took his courses and followed his associates' advice, I put my trust in him and bought the 10 accounts when I only needed 1. Mr. Cardone and his associates also deceived me into believing I needed to take out loans to purchase additional training courses from Mr. Cardone if I wanted to achieve the success promised by him. For example, during the pandemic, Brandon Dawson, Mr. Cardone's business partner in Cardone University, instructed me how to apply and receive business loans from the U.S. Small Business Administration. Immediately after the loan videos, he would teach me that the key to achieving success was through the courses I would invest in. Mr. Cardone and his business partner guaranteed I would get a return on the investment. All right. So I said a lot there. I don't think I've actually talked about that enough. So just so you guys know, first of all, yeah, super embarrassing to talk about how I was deceived. The first sale I got was 10 Cardone University accounts. 10. That's fucking insane because I only had 2 employees and I was the only sales rep. The other person was a laborer. So obviously I didn't need that many accounts. And by the way, Cardone University is just a training platform, guys. It's just it's a place where you watch a ton of videos of Grant Cardone talking, teaching you how to sell. And it's not that valuable, to be honest. Another reminder here, anybody who's watching on Instagram Live, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Today's Misguided Mentors, I'm showing my personal declaration that I submitted to John Legere Grant Cardone versus John Legere case. And I'll be able to see your comments and engagement in there as well. So just a reminder, to make it easy, you can go to my story. There's a link in there. Go there, click it. It'll take you right to the page. So appreciate that. Yeah, Christine, we're awake 100%. We definitely are. Absolutely, Kat. So yeah, the first thing I was deceived into buying was 10 Cardone University accounts when I was the only one who needed it. And the thing that was pitched to me, and again, a form of the brainwashing I was talking about, was like, oh yeah, no, in order for you to would you like, first the question would come to me, would you like 10 sales reps? Like, yeah, of course I'd love to get there. Well, you're never going to get those 10 sales reps unless you buy these courses, because you're not going to believe it. You're not going to manifest it. It's not going to come to life unless you make it real by buying these 10 Cardone University accounts. So that was the first time I've ever experienced that. And so I was, again, manipulated into thinking that was the solution. I believe in manifestation. I believe in affirmations. I believe in that stuff. And so I thought that's what I was doing. Thought I was manifesting it, right? Again, another example of how something good, like manifesting and affirmations, can be used for bad. You got to pay attention to those things. So the other thing that was mentioned in there, let me see here. I was talking about how, what did I say there? Oh yeah, it was set up immediately after. This is kind of super embarrassing to talk about, but I don't really care. He was talking about, there was a video in there during the pandemic, a series of videos actually that Brandon Dawson did, where he was teaching you how to get money, loan money from the Small Business Administration. Right after those videos was a set of other videos that were just drilling that you should invest in the next course with them, invest that money with them. So no, they didn't directly say that you should get SBA money and then invest it straight with us, but it was a very sneaky way to encourage business owners to get loan money and then use all or the majority of that money to invest in scaling their business. I think I'm the only person talking about this when it comes to talking about SBA loans or loan money being used to invest in a business. I really hope that some people start talking about this more, because I know for sure I'm not the only person that got deceived in that manner. So I really hope that changes. I really hope somebody starts speaking up about that, because I get it. It's not fun to talk about. I get it. It can be embarrassing. I get it. But talk about it, because whatever you got to do to get over that embarrassment or get over that shame that it's not even real. Like, there's no shame in that. It can happen to the best of people. I've explained that, but it does need to be talked about a lot more. So make sure you talk about it. And if you got to do it anonymously, do it. Nobody's coming after you. Nobody's going to sue you. Nobody's going to put the fear in you. Scientology's not coming after you. So get over that. And I guess I don't know for sure, but if you're scared of it, at least do it anonymously. I would encourage people. So let me continue this. Okay, so God, this is bringing up some bad memories, bad memories. All right, so after, how much more of this is left? Okay, cool. After watching these videos, I obtained loans from the U.S. Small Business Administration and use them to purchase additional courses offered by Mr. Cardone based on the promise that these courses were key to growing my business. Despite these promises and investments, my business did not achieve any additional success because Mr. Cardone's courses had no value. Whenever I would grow concerned that my business was not growing after listening to his advice, Mr. Cardone would always teach me that I would achieve success if I paid him for another coaching course, just like Gary Brecka was talking about. Another investment I made with Mr. Cardone was attending his business seminars. It was my experience that Mr. Cardone orchestrates seminars and events to unethically and deceitfully squeeze money from attendees based on false promises and high-pressure sales tactics. Mr. Cardone's seminars are 2 to 3 days, 8 to 10 hours per day. During these long days, I was brainwashed to idolize Mr. Cardone, adopt his thought process, and do what he says. At the end of each day, Mr. Cardone's staff served free alcohol while they aggressively harassed me to pay Mr. Cardone for more products and services. There was no escape from these high-pressure sales tactics. For example, Mr. Cardone's staff on several occasions invaded my privacy while I was using the bathroom and eating lunch, trying to convince me to buy additional courses after I had been drinking the free alcohol provided by Mr. Grant Cardone. These high-pressure and inappropriate tactics made me want to do anything to stop them, including buying more courses from Mr. Cardone, even though I was beginning to realize they had no value. All right, so there's a lot to talk about just in that little bit that I just exposed. Again, some people might be thinking like, oh my God, he sounds like a fucking pity party. There's no accountability there. Again, I get it. I'm a grown up, right? I can choose when I want to drink, when I don't. But let's just call it what it is. First, there's a 3-day event where they're hammering you on commit first, figure out the rest later. Your network is your net worth. Those who pay attention. Proximity is power, so on and so forth. Not only that, the intro of those every single day is just like a dark room where Grant Cardone is saying all these things over and over and over on a loudspeaker, just completely incepting your mind. It's a straight up cult like approach. All right. And so you got that going on. At the end of these 3 days, and the last day especially, you got free alcohol. They got free alcohol, and that's where all the sales reps really start putting the pressure on. They know that you're like, brainwashed by the entire day. And especially at the end of the third day, you're brainwashed on multiple days. You've been attending these for a long period of time. It is interrogation tactics. If you look up interrogations on why people make terrible decisions, it's because they're deprived. They're constantly just being drilled in the head with information, exhausted. The next thing you know, the end of it, you're getting some free alcohol. You're like, oh, thank God I could just kick back and relax a little bit. Well, you think that, but you're kicking back too much, because now is when the vultures and the sales reps start coming out, and you got all these snot-nosed 20-year-old guys coming out to sell you a product that you don't need. And it comes really, really, really hard. And they are very, very high pressure, very high pressure. They don't take no for an answer. And what happens is they end up throwing the same tactics that they just taught you for the last 3 days back in your face. So for instance, now you're drinking, you're a little loose. Someone offers you like, hey, did you sign up for this? It's $20,000. This is going to take your business to the next level. Are you in? You're like, nah, I got to think about it. That's a big investment. Now they start throwing those sayings that they drilled you with for 3 days back in your face. Well, remember, your network is your net worth. Remember, those who pay attention. Remember, proximity is power. Remember this, commit first, figure out the rest later. Remember, those who pay attention. So all that just gets drilled right back into your face. And now they're trying to shame you, and it has turned into an interrogation. Okay. So I wanted to make sure I talked about that in my declaration, because it's a very real thing. It's a very uncomfortable, deceiving process that goes on. No different than detectives use unethical detectives use in an interrogation to squeeze out a confession. There we go. A false confession by somebody. So Kat, was I allowed to ask questions during Grant's talk? No. They got the microphone, they're on stage. Unless it's like a small breakout room, in those type of scenarios, which they do, they'll pass the mic around and get some questions by people. Yeah. But generally speaking, at those events, no. Whoever's got the mic is speaking, and it's like the voice of God. They're just preaching over you. All right, so let me get back into this. Oh, let me share this again. All right, let's get down to this and wrap this up here. I didn't realize it at the time, but I ended up adopting and implementing Mr. Cardone's deceptive and unethical business practices into my own business. For example, Mr. Cardone instructed me to tell potential customers that my clients included Google, Ford, Chevrolet, and other large companies to give a mirage of success, even though those companies were not my clients. In one occasion, Mr. Cardone suggested that I tell my prospects that I am a business partner with a multi-billionaire. However, on the 10X business contract, it advised me not to say that I was a partner with Mr. Cardone. Not only did my business not improve, but rather started to decline after doing business and following Mr. Cardone's advice, because he taught me to deceive clients to create the illusion of more success, just like he does to his own customers. Mr. Cardone exploited my trust and manipulated my decision-making by subjecting me to emotional pressure to buy his products, services, and seminars, including by creating fear, guilt, and anxiety. Mr. Cardone also used threats of financial ruin, exaggerated risks, and personal attacks on my character and abilities. This emotional manipulation clouded my judgment, making it difficult for me to make rational, well-informed decisions about the future of my business. When I raised concerns or questioned the validity of Mr. Cardone's promises and claims of success, I was dismissed and ridiculed. My experience with Mr. Cardone and his entire 10X organization is that they are running a deceitful organization that provided useless products and services to entrepreneurs in dire need of valuable advice, while also encouraging entrepreneurs to implement unethical business practices. I spent over $200,000 with Mr. Cardone and followed his advice because he claimed he was a billionaire who had secrets to my company's financial success. Mr. Cardone's promises were false and were designed to exploit me into paying Mr. Cardone more money when I was most vulnerable. Throughout the process, Mr. Cardone's promised outcomes that were never intended to be fulfilled, or he promised those outcomes that were never intended to be fulfilled, and I believe Mr. Cardone's acted with malicious intent. So there you have it, guys. There's actually, believe it or not, that was a condensed version of my declaration to John Legere's lawyers. It was actually a lot longer than that, and I talked about several other things. I talked about neuro-linguistic programming and how brainwashing is used to coerce people into, coercion that is used to get people to make decisions, business decisions that they normally wouldn't make in a normal scenario. So that's it. That's pretty much what I wanted to share with you. I will go over, because I think the interview that Gary did with Aaron Smith Levin was really good. I thought it was, as he's doing these more and more, they're going to get better. So, I'm hoping to actually get Gary on a conversation as well, just because I feel like, again, he's got such a good following and an ability to use that following to impact people and bring awareness. It's not about smearing people. It's not about, I could tell with him, it's a lot like my approach. I'm not here to talk shit about somebody. I'm not here to make somebody look bad, even though that may be perceived that way. That's not my intent. My intent is to bring awareness to misguided mentors. My intent is to enhance entrepreneurial awareness so people know what to look for when it comes to red flags, certain sayings that will brainwash you. I'm here to help. I'm not here to make somebody look bad or hate them or destroy their family or destroy their business, put them in a bad light. I know that, if you isolate something out of context that I've said, it could be perceived that way and it could feel like that, but that's not the case, which is why I'm elaborating on that very clearly right now. Not because I'm worried about anything, being sued or any of that shit. I don't care. You think you could sue me? Come sue me. I invite it. I'm not worried about that. I just want to be clear to people because I don't want there to be a misunderstanding of what my intention is. I'm not here to put my energy into those people. I'm here to put energy into the problem and provide a solution, or at least provide solutions that could help. Do I think I have the answers to all this and people are not going to be scammed and be deceived? No, unfortunately, it's going to continue to go on. But the more people I can help, then I'll be fulfilling my calling, because this is one of the things I'm being guided to do and directed to do by my higher power. And so I'm going to do that. All right. And I enjoy it. I want to help people. I already have a lot of people reach out to me and tell me they're really happy and thankful for the things I've shared and talked about. It's helped them in some aspect. And that validates to me that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. So I'm just a tool here being used for this process, and I'm happily doing it. Thankfully, I have the fortitude to do it. I have the strength to do it. I have the confidence and the courage to do it. And I'm very grateful for that. I'm very, very grateful. I don't take that for granted at all. Let's see. So, Kat, you were saying you were dismissed and ridiculed as a tenant, the exact same treatment. Exactly. And for those of you who don't know, I had Kat talk about her 10X experience. She was a 10X tenant for one of Grant Cardone's buildings, and she has a powerful story talking about her terrible experience with Grant Cardone's businesses that manage that. And I've talked about it too. I've shared some stuff with my experience over at the 10X Los Olas building in Fort Lauderdale, where a woman was trapped in an elevator and all kinds of crazy shit was going on. And they were blaming it on her as she was still trapped in the elevator. It's fucking crazy. So yeah, Christine, my declaration didn't hold weight with the lawsuit. It never even got. The lawsuit was dropped. So I don't think anybody's declarations were submitted or provided or revealed. It didn't even get to depositions. As far as I know, to my knowledge, it didn't even make it that far. I think they spent all this time, both parties probably spent all this time, all this money gathering depositions and declarations. And then in the end, I feel like Scientologists have eventually just squeezed John Legere with some type of blackmail, perhaps. They definitely put the fear in him somehow. That's the only explanation I can see. In order for them in order for him to just pivot that fast, I mean, I guess it was a year, but in order for that to happen, you would have to put a lot of pressure and really a lot of fear in somebody with that much success and that much power, because John Legere appears to be like he's very successful and like he's doing well for himself, and like, the way he spoke seemed very convicted, like you can't really put him on his back or in a corner. But lo and behold, Scientology was able to do that, and I think it's very sad, and it's very, very unfortunate. And I honestly look at John Legere a little bit different. I'd love to know, maybe I can talk to him sometime, but I'd love to know why he did that. Maybe there's something I don't know about that, but this is what it looks like. I really don't know, but it's really sad to see. Debbie, how you doing? You were saying, okay. Okay, yeah, it was exactly. Well said, Debbie. Yeah, the lawsuit was settled before it was even revealed or needed. However, I'm going to be using that declaration and modify it a little bit because, it can be used in the case against Brandon Dawson 100%. Probably not in the case with Elena Cardone. Because I haven't had any personal experience with Elena Cardone. I have met her a couple times. I introduced my daughter to her, and she had some conversations with Malia and Sabrina and Scarlett, but not enough experience with her. I've heard some horror stories, don't get me wrong, and I've shared some of those horror stories, and I have my opinion about Elena, but I personally don't have any experience with her other than the brief moment I chatted with her, and Malia was chatting with her at a Grant Cardone Foundation event. However, I've got direct experience with Brandon Dawson, and I don't have good things to say about that guy. I think you guys know that, and I would love to share my opinion on that guy and my experience about that guy, and the 10X 360 program that he runs, and that was $40,000 I spent with him, and I didn't buy it from the remarkable thing about that experience is I didn't buy it from one of his sales reps or Grant's sales reps. I bought that directly from Brandon Dawson. I think, I sat down, he pulled me aside, had a private conversation with him in Hollywood at the Diplomat. And then once, me and him came to an understanding, and he made me a bunch of promises and said, I'll do this for you, that for you, as long as, you just got to pay the $40,000. I ended up, tying the deal up with his brother, Josh Dawson. But Josh Dawson didn't sell me the program. Brandon Dawson did. So I have some. And then what happened at the 10X headquarters while I was actually going through that was a terrible experience for me as well. Very unethical on Brandon Dawson's part. So yes, I'll be sharing that declaration with Gary Brecka's lawyer. I already got an appointment set up with him this week, so I'll be talking with him. Stay tuned on that. Definitely, like I said, any way I can contribute or provide value and this or any scenario where people are deceitful or unethical, I'm going to be doing that. And so I just happen to have a personal experience with Brandon Dawson and the 10X organization. So I'm happy to share that. So that's pretty much it for today, guys. I'm going to wrap this episode up, and I appreciate everybody's engagement and their feedback and questions. Stay tuned. I got a lot more to talk about and break down I'll probably, like I said, do another video on this podcast with Aaron, just because, like I said, Gary did a good job of talking in this and elaborating on some things. But hopefully soon I'm going to taper off of this. Like I said before in the beginning of this, I don't want to spend my entire time piggybacking off of interviews and podcasts that are not my own and doing that. A lot of people are doing that for clickbait and all that, and I don't want to do that. What I want to do is essentially like just keep it authentic and also come to solutions and give valuable advice on how to navigate this predatory atmosphere. So anyway, stay tuned. Share the number. Yeah, what is the number? How do I comment on here? Do I have the number on here? Yeah. Let me see. Unfortunately, I can't do that because it's on my phone and I'm live streaming right now, but I'll put it in the comments after I post this video. How about that? I'll make a comment here to share the number. But you can also go to JT Fox's interview with him. He shared the number on there as well. So if anybody wants to call Gary Brecka's lawyer, call him up. If you got a story, you had an experience, and you're not ashamed or you're not worried about anything, call and share your story. And then I'll also put it in the comment description on this. All right. So anyways, thanks again, guys. I really appreciate that. Appreciate you guys listening and following and subscribing and all that. Keep your eyes peeled, keep your ears open. I'm going to bring you guys some more information. And like I said, hopefully I can continue to help people